Are you tired of posting daily on Instagram and feeling like you're shouting into the void? What if your podcast could grow on autopilot, even while you're off making dinner or reading your book? Hi, I'm Andy Smiley, your friendly podcast guide, and the podcast coach for women who want to grow their podcast without burning out. Pinterest has been my secret weapon for the past year, and here's why. I can create a week's worth of pins in about 30 minutes. Then step away, and my podcast keeps growing. One pin that I made months ago, it has nearly 7,000 views and is still sending me new listeners every single week. That's why I created Pinterest Magic for Podcasters, my step-by-step course that helps you set up Pinterest the right way so you can grow your show without the hustle. It's officially live today, and you can grab the course at the link in the show notes. And if you're still on the fence about Pinterest, get ready. My guest today, Meagan Williamson, Pinterest expert extraordinaire, shares the exact mindset shift and simple steps that will make you wonder why you didn't try Pinterest sooner. Plus, she has a story about how just one pin landed one of her clients a $5,000 coaching package. Let's dive in. I am so excited to have Meagan on the podcast today. We are talking all things Pinterest. This is going to be really fun. Meagan, I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Andy. I'm excited to share the goodness of Pinterest.
There is so much goodness in Pinterest and not enough people know. So here we are. Okay, so we're just going to dive right in. If a mom is just like figuring out that Pinterest is a really good marketing tool for their podcast, where should they start? Like, what's the first step?
Okay, if I was going to help you just get started, what I would say is you want to really have that, I always call it the Pinterest mindset shift. You have to think about this marketing channel differently than you think about your other social media. So traditionally, we clump all the platforms into the same bucket, right? But the thing is that there's really this divide. We can kind of like do a line in the sand and push the items to one side or the other. So traditional social media is really more like Instagram, Facebook, Threads, Twitter X, whatever people call it now. And then on the other side of the line is what we really refer to as search marketing or SEO. So this is more like what we think about when it comes to like Google. Like you would go into Google and you would put in a phrase, a text phrase, and search something. YouTube. You're like, oh, I need to look up a video about how to do something. I'm going to look it up on YouTube. And then Pinterest is that last piece of the search engine world, which it's a visual search engine. I was trying to think of like, how would I explain Pinterest as a search engine to somebody who's new to this? I was thinking about this idea, like basically Pinterest is like Google, but all images or video. If you're just getting started, what you have to do is think like your ideal listeners, your ideal audience, the people who you want to find you. Remember, search behavior is all about finding you. So how are they searching on Pinterest? What are they looking for in Pinterest? And how can you insert yourself in a very practical, helpful way? I call this in my program, I call it solve what they search. So no matter what type of creator you are, you have to think like your audience, right? So what are they? And this is where the shift happens, because on Instagram, we're thinking about the hook. How can we hook them and get them to watch the reel? Whereas Pinterest is more like Google, that we're casting a wide net so people can find us. So it's what we call top of funnel. It's for people who don't know who you are yet, but would find your podcast in general, or that specific podcast episode, really helpful, really aspirational. They want to hear your story. They want to learn from you. They want to listen. And so that's where I always tell people to get started, is to sort of reframe how you think about Pinterest. Okay, so think like your audience, think about their search behavior, and then how are we going to bring that to Pinterest, because it is a visual search engine and not like the other platforms.
Totally. Okay, so if I'm thinking like my audience, my listeners, am I thinking like what they're going to type in? Like, how to start a podcast or something like that. Is that what you mean
Exactly.
by think like
So,
your
yeah.
listeners?
So you want to think like, what are they searching for? What are they asking? What are they getting stuck on? What would be helpful? What would be something where they'd be like, this is so valuable. I want to save it to my Pinterest account. I want to keep this so I can come back to it. It is like an archive. It's like a visual scrapbook. It's that vision board. It's that archive that your listeners are keeping where they can store those ideas, how to start a podcast, how to encourage downloads. Humans are innately hungry for information. We are, by human nature, always receptive to learning. We have questions. And so that's where the Pinterest piece comes in when you think about your marketing, is that you are entering text and thinking about, how can I make sure that they know what this is about, what they're going to get, and how I'm going to help them?
Definitely. Okay. So I know that you are really good at your job, but I want my listeners to know. So what are some success stories that you have from your own experience or like clients that like can make people be like, oh my gosh, yes, I need Pinterest now?
Sure. Well, I have so many. It's again, I was working on this like waitlist page and I was like, how do I pick my favorite students? So I started my own Pinterest account in 2010 when I was a blogger, but I've really been shilling out advice and standing on my soapbox since about 2014. So for over 11 years, I've been helping other people with Pinterest. So if I had to pick my favorites, it is really, really hard. I think some of my favorites are people who are really busy, who are kind of like me. So I have 2 small children. I need marketing that even when I step away, and I can say this hand on heart, like even when I didn't have children and I wasn't married, so if we like zoom back 15 years ago, I've always been like this with social media. Like I'm either on or I'm off. Like when I'm having a birthday party for my kids, I'm not living through my phone for that birthday party. Like I'm in the moment, I'm on vacation. I don't really want to think about how I have to document everything. So whether you have small children, whether you are a caregiver working a 9 to 5, have a chronic illness, so your capacity is limiting. So my favorite clients are kind of like that. So I had someone who was starting out, she was a baker, but then really good at it. So other people started to ask her, well, how can I start a baking business? What can I do? So what we worked on was creating a blog and creating Pinterest pins that would help people discover her services, her programs, and her content. And she reached out to me a year ago to say that the things that I taught her in 2020 literally from a single pin result in a paycheck that she gets every single month because she has new people finding her every day, new people subscribing to her email list. We have a wide range of people who are really in my programs. And often we do attract people who are selling courses or digital products or they're coaches. So you can even say they have a little bit of services. And so I have Amy. Amy was another student who came into my world years ago, probably 2020, 2021. And she reached out to let me know that a client booked with her for a long-term coaching package, which was valued at it was between $5,000 and $10,000. And she asked that client, how did you find me, on her onboarding? And in the onboarding survey, she said, I originally found you on Pinterest. What happened was the woman had found her 10 months earlier, but she found her Pinterest pin, saved it, came back to it a month later, read a blog post that was very helpful, and she was like, I really like Amy. I'm going to subscribe to her email list. Then she started reading Amy's emails. And actually, I think Amy now has a podcast, but she also does a bit of blogging. And so what that customer who signed up for the coaching package did was quietly consume her content, listen to it, read it, and was brought closer and became, more and more interested in how Amy could help her, to the day where she submitted, I really want to work with you, and set up a discovery call for your coaching. So those are some of the ones that I love. I have to say though, I really attract people. I have homesteaders, I have an alpaca farmer. We have people who are artists who are selling their prints online, and they've never sold anything online. These are traditional creatives We have people who get licensing deals from Pinterest, so they license their designs and their art. Honestly, like no matter the niche, no matter what business model, I haven't found anybody yet that we haven't been able to make Pinterest work for.
That's awesome. Well, and that's something that I have noticed is people will come to me and they'll say, well, I have a podcast about books. So I don't think that Pinterest will work for me because it's not about recipes or like
Yeah.
decorating.
So common.
I
So
know.
common.
And I'm like, actually, no. Like people are searching for all sorts of things on Pinterest, not just recipes
You said
anymore.
it. I always say, like, if people search it, they're on Pinterest saving those pins. And what's cool about Pinterest is it tends to be quieter, right? And it has this compounding effect. And I feel like we, as parents, especially if you had children during COVID and you are a business owner or multi-passionate, we are at peak, like overstimulated, a little bit burnt out. If you have any identified or undiagnosed neurodiversity, it's like social media is really exhausting and you do have to make choices about like where you want to spend your time. I know personally as a mom, as a business owner, I've always been drawn to things that I can create today and that it will continue to bring people to my front door, to my website, to my social media, to my email list, to my products every single day from things that I created years ago that have compounding effect. And I love that when people are like, oh my God, I found this blog post that you did 4 years ago and it helped me so much. And, you know, that's like music to my ears. And really, I do it myself, but that's what I teach is like, how can we double down on basically, maybe it's also because I kind of find sales a bit icky. You know, I used to be a psychologist. I was a school psychologist. I have no marketing background. I'm not, you know, like this isn't my thing. I didn't go to school for this. So like that sales piece, especially if you're newer to business, it can be kind of like you really love teaching people and sharing your stories and your information, but it's like, wait, now I have to market my business. Now I have to sell it, for lack of a better word. But I think that what I love about search-based marketing for podcasts or any business that's online is that we can really thoughtfully place ourselves in our listeners' journey by just showing up when they need help.
For sure. And one thing I love, you've kind of mentioned this, but one of my favorite things about Pinterest is that I can like do my 5 pins for the week. That's about where I am right now. And then I can be done. Like I can shut off.
Oh, you're not looking at comments. You're not looking at DMs. Yeah,
exactly.
I
and
know.
I don't have to like.
It's magic.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And you're right. Like it's not like it's not like you're gonna have thousands and thousands of people looking at your stuff overnight. But as long as you just are like consistent,
it's like anything.
It compounds and it's beautiful. Yeah.
It's like eating kale. It's like getting enough iron and calcium and fiber through your diet. It's not easy. Sometimes you have to make some changes. You have to ditch the takeout and you kind of have to plan and make the time for it. Like I have to plan a menu every week. I make sure we buy bright, colorful vegetables, things that are iron rich, calcium rich, all that good stuff. And I kind of feel like that's where, like, I will say that if you're looking for overnight results, Pinterest is not it. It is not flashy. It's not sexy, but it is going to be that thing in your back pocket. Like, I can say that when I had my daughter, Pinterest and search marketing saved my butt. I was all about having a second kid. My first kid, he was a nightmare. I was prepared for hell. But what I did not prepare for was my son going to school and my daughter and my son and my husband and I, like and I'm sure everyone's gonna like know this moment. My son would come home and the boogers would be running. And he'd be like, I don't feel good, mommy. And I knew 5 days later, my newborn would be coughing and struggling to breathe. And then 3 days later, mommy would get sick. And then 7 days later, my husband would get sick. We started tracking it. It was like sometimes 5 weeks end to end where nobody was sleeping. everybody's crying. And like, I couldn't, how am I going to show up and make a reel when like I have two crying babies? And so as a business owner though, like I'm the breadwinner in my family. I have a business. I love my work. I love my children, but it's like, you know, you have to be realistic. So what I found is that during those times when I needed to step away and my kids needed me, my business still hummed away in the background. I still had people reaching out to me. I had people finding my blog, people finding my social media, because I make my content, I make myself easy to find. And that's really what I teach in a lot of my marketing. And I'm not like, it's not exclusive to moms, but I know like there is that unique special place that when we are in the trenches, that is tiring and hard, and that the oh my god, I have to put on makeup, and how am I going to record some, like I remember I had to do a podcast episode, and I said to my husband, my daughter was crying, and I was like, can you just bundle her up in the carrier? I fed her. Can you go bounce her outside for, I said, like literally 30 minutes. And as soon as I'm done, we're off the recording. Like I'll take her back. And, you know, she just wanted mommy. You know, she was 5 months old, sick, you know, congested. And I don't know, like I think, you know, we're at this time where we can also acknowledge that social media has existed so long that we hardly remember what life was like before it. And you can just make choices. It doesn't have to be exhausting and draining, and you don't have to always be on. I think we just like, people get into this grind where they think that the only option, and no hate to Instagram, but the only option is like Instagram, and I have to be on Reels 5 days a week, and I'm going to post my stories every single day. And, you know, like that's not for me. You know, I love people that do that, but it's not for me.
I agree. Yep. Yes. Truly, so I started taking Pinterest seriously it's been about a year. That's cute.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, very. This is perfect timing.
Yes, right? And when I started taking it seriously, I didn't see results immediately, like we said. But by January, I was like, oh, who are these new people that are just,
can we just
like,
talk about that
me?
though? Because what you're sharing, like your timeline is an honest timeline. So I get asked a lot, like people, oh my God, TikTok is the worst for this. I have some TikTok presence, and people will be like, nothing's working. What's wrong with my account? I'm like, well, how long? No joke, 28 days. I've posted a pin every day for 20 days. I'm like, girl, you are just getting going. So your timeline is really realistic. So what ends up happening is the first 3 months kind of feel like a slog, because you're just building up your presence. You're getting comfortable with the platform. You're starting to share things. Then from 3 to 6 is when we start to see like those early indicators of like, okay, this is starting to work. Like people are starting to save your pins. A few people are clicking over to your website. By month 6 is when we start to see the good stuff roll in. Then you start to see, new people listening to your podcast, new people showing up on your email list, people, sending you an email being like, oh, I saw a pin and I went to your blog or your website, and then now I'm sending you this message. And then by about the 12-month mark of consistency is when the really good things start to happen. But that is a hard sell. Like, Andy, nobody wants to hear that, right? Is where people are like, what? It's 6 to 12 months. But like, trust me, like just like Allison, who's like, hey, Meagan, like the things I did and you taught me in 2020 are still helping me grow today. Or we have Jamie. She worked a 9 to 5, but she like became sober herself. So would educate people about like gray zone drinking and cutting out alcohol and how to still have fun and self-care and all of sort of the lifestyle. And like she says the same exact thing. She's like, you know, like these skills have helped me to rank for my niche for years. Like people are discovering all the things that I'm doing, even when she doesn't pivot, but say she like zhuzhes and she decides to try something new. Her audience continues to find her because she knows how to create content that appeals to the questions they're asking and the things they're searching. And that is so, like, those evergreen strategies, they'll help you no matter where you go. The little thing about Pinterest too is it helps you kind of have a reframe of like thinking more like our audience. We know that the more we can think about the questions our audience has, the objections, the things that they want to hear, that they ask you, the more that we really think like our audience, the better our content is. And then the better, then our community starts to grow because people are like, oh my God, this is really good. And so Pinterest can really help you also just improve your entire content ecosystem and think more like your audience or your ideal listeners, because you're so deep, like you don't even know sometimes, right? You're like, I don't know, I forget what I thought when I first started podcasting. What were those
Yes.
things, right? Like it was so long ago.
Totally. Yeah, totally. Oh my goodness, yes. Well, and the thing that I tell people is like the goal isn't to put out 50 pins in a month. The goal is to get yourself like into the habit of creating pins. 100%. And then when you like reach that goal, then you're like, cool, let's add a little bit more so that we can get more out there. But
you're hired. Literally, this is what I teach. Because sometimes people too, like I had a woman, so I launched a beginner's course in July, and a woman said to me, well, I'm watching the whole course before I start pinning. I was like, that's literally the opposite of what I told you to do. Like in the intro, I say, just start, and then we can go back and refine. And it is about building up that habit. And if no one, I'm sure everybody's heard of him, but James Clear, when he talks about habit stacking and building habit, like it's all about building that marketing habit or marketing muscle. Things will not grow unless you give them time. And Pinterest is very much that type of platform where it's about showing up and being consistent. And it could be, for your listener, it might be like 1 pin a week, right? For 4 weeks. And at the end of the 4 weeks, you'd be like, okay, that's not so hard. Could you do 2 a week? Okay, you do that for 4 weeks, and then you build up like just your 5, the fact that you're doing 5 a week. Now, what I would encourage you to do is, if I was your Pinterest coach, I'd say, okay, you're doing 5 a week. Could you push yourself to do 1 a day? So that's 7 pins in 7 days. And what does that look like? And how can you really show up and provide content that's going to help your ideal audience really create that incredible, awesome podcast and get started? And sometimes it's like, yeah, it's not about huge amounts of volume right out the gate. It's just getting comfortable. But some people, you know, especially women, it's like, well, I'm not going to start pinning until I can do 15 a day. I'm like, what? What? No, that's like me saying I'm not going to start exercising until I'm ready to run a marathon. Like, girl, I'm not going to get to the marathon unless
You're never going to get there.
Listen, just like podcasting, getting on Pinterest, you've got to start somewhere. And it's like anything. It's not easy to start when you try something new. The beautiful thing about Pinterest is it's so forgiving. And even if you like start and for some reason kind of have to be like, you know, my life's gone a little bit sideways. It's Christmas. It's, you know, we're going on vacation or something. Don't worry. Like the efforts you did in the last 3 months, they will help you continue to grow. And actually, that's another thing, right? It's like not a platform that will punish you severely for needing to step away for a period of time. Like your pins will still keep circulating. People will still discover them. And if anything, like I often have my content from last year be what's driving traffic today.
Totally. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're talking about like starting. Mm-hmm. Do you have like a basic starter strategy for my listeners that they could use on Pinterest?
Yeah, well, I'll reverse engineer it a little bit. So for your pins to be distributed in the Pinterest feed and understood by Pinterest, your account needs to be optimized. And when I say optimized, it means that you are using the words of your audience in your Pinterest name, your Pinterest about, your Pinterest board names. And what this does is it sends signals to Pinterest to understand what type of content you're creating, what your podcast is about, what sort of topics come up, like whatever topics, niches, things that you will be speaking about, you are curating on your Pinterest account. So set up your account. Next, this is my like starter recommendation just to make it as easy as possible. Look at your other content, whether it's blog content, podcast episodes, reels, TikToks, YouTube. Look at your best performing content. Start with your best content first. And I find just because it's like rewarding, like it's already a proven thing. And then just do some simple keyword research. So think about those like 2-3 words related to the type of episodes that you're creating. And that if you were your ideal listener, how would they find you? Do you understand what they would actively be searching for? And then just, like rip off the Band-Aid and get pinning.
Totally. Okay. So I get a lot of questions about this, so I'm going to ask you a follow-up. So when you're looking for keywords, I feel like keywords for some reason is just a really scary word for my listeners. And so when you're thinking of, I do too. It's a scary word for me too sometimes because it just feels like a little overwhelming. You're like, okay, so keywords, like,
it feels
so what
technical.
are my people thinking? Yeah,
it feels
does feel technical.
That's what someone said to me.
Totally. So when people are looking for keywords, what they're really looking for is, what is someone going to look for? Like, what are they going to type into their search bar? And I want my pin to come up and for it to be exactly what they need, right? Like
Yes.
Okay.
So what we think about is there's kind of like, there are different words that people use, right? So we think about the root word. So if it's one word, what would it be? So for you, it's podcasting or podcast. Then we think about, okay, like what is the next most search phrase? And like, I could even look it up as we're talking about it, that it might be like how to start a podcast, podcast tips, how to edit a podcast. It's, you start to add words that, and really on Pinterest, what we find is most words are more like, they'll add like an adjective, like easy, fast, step-by-step, simple, and then the word. Now it depends on the niche or industry, but what we want to think about is what is this search behavior or the way that people are actively, and I'm such a nerd that I'm going to do it because I want people to know that this is how simple it is. So we're opening up, like, I'm literally opening up the Pinterest app on my iPhone and I'm going to enter podcast, okay? Or podcasting. So right away, these are the top search phrases, okay? So some of it is going to be relevant, some might not be. Podcasting aesthetic, which is so funny to me. That's like a trend where people just like, they love the aesthetic of something. Podcasting studio, podcasting room, podcasting for beginners, podcasting setup, podcasting equipment. So these are the most searched terms on Pinterest for the word podcasting. Now, if I was to do a different topic, say just like something like Instagram, it's things like Instagram captions, Instagram story ideas, Instagram highlight covers. And what we can do is if we enter that Instagram and then I say story ideas, Instagram story ideas, it's going to switch up the results to be more relevant to content that's all about Instagram stories. So to give you an idea, again, I just want this to be really actionable. How to use Instagram stories, Instagram story ideas for photographers. It just goes on, where it basically wants to connect me to the best, most relevant content based on my search query. And the search query is just those words that they're entering in the search bar.
Totally. Okay. So you typed in Instagram and then, but you didn't click anything. You just typed that. And then below that, it was like Instagram stories, Instagram, all of those things. So is that a good place for us to be looking for keywords?
Yeah. And it's that simple. You do not need fancy paid tools. That's not going to cost. It's funny. People always assume they're like, you must use like fancy tools. Literally, I am the queen of like scrappy. Like I grew up with no money. I was not raised. I'm like, do everything free you can to grow your business. And Pinterest is wonderful. Pinterest has Pinterest trends. You can do research in Pinterest trends. That's only available for business accounts. You have to be a business account. If you are promoting your podcast, you need to have a business account. No personal Pinterest accounts here. So basically, you can use the search bar. I will tell you, this is like a little bit more of an advanced strategy. Now, I mentioned two things. If I enter the word, a drop-down menu appears with particular predicted, like it was like podcasting studio, podcasting room. Now, when you enter and you do you search just podcasting, there are slightly different answers. People who are very technical would ask me like, well, how do I know what's more important? What I'll say is that the drop-down menu options are higher search volume. If you press enter and you have those little colored bubbles or tiles, we call them guided search. Guided search will integrate seasonally relevant ideas or things that are like trendy. So what I always say to people is if you're going after numbers and you want to appeal to a wider audience, then just look at the drop down menu. And this will make sense if you open up your phone and you're following along with me. If you're entering the word Instagram and you notice those colored bubbles are different, it's because it often the search results are so advanced and dynamic that it now predicts things that are like popping off and trending right now. So I'll give a little example that if you are somebody, like say you have a food podcast and you do like an episode on soup. I'm only saying this because this is actually when I clued into this algorithm change that happened a year ago. So a year ago, I wanted to make soup. I had like a bunch of vegetables, even though, fall is traditionally soup season, but I did not enter the words cozy, fall, autumn. I did not use any of that terminology. I just said like vegetable soup. And I noticed that my results on Pinterest were like, cozy fall soup ideas. Try these fall vegetable soups. And I was like, wait, I didn't say fall. So what Pinterest did about a year ago, and it didn't roll out on everybody's account until the last, 6 to 12 months, Pinterest started to integrate seasonally relevant content, even when people aren't querying that season, that holiday, that time period, because they know that Pinterest, the algorithm is so advanced, it tries to anticipate the needs of the person searching. So again, it's like kind of just like showing up. And so the big difference is that when you have those colored bubbles, they account for what time of year it is and what season you're in. And will show you things that it thinks you might want.
Okay. So I'm going to monopolize your time for the next minute and ask you. So for me,
yeah,
if I were to we're working towards 7 pins a week, right? So if one of those pins, I were to incorporate like seasonal words, even if it's not that season right now, they would show up more possibly in whatever season it's talking about. So like if I were like 5 tips to keep your podcast going in the summer or something like that, then 100%. When someone typed in podcast tips, it would pop up in August or whatever.
A time sensitive relevancy for your audience. Also things like for you, it would be like you would be working towards like in the new year, there's a spike in interest who people are like, I'm going to start my podcast in January. So you could do some things around like how to successfully launch your podcast in January, or you could use the phrase new year. Okay. So it's like thinking about, it's funny because people like you and I are infopreneurs. So actually I would say that we are the most difficult to think of for ideas. And people say that, right? Like, well, I'm evergreen. The thing is there's always something. So you nailed it when you said summer, because summer is a time where so many of us, especially moms, were like, our marketing has to be different. Right. And so like if you have anything about summer marketing, getting ready for Q4, how to prepare for Christmas, anything that's related to the time of year, the season, so spring, winter, summer, fall, or even like when there's ebbs and flows. So I mentioned like New Year. I know Pinterest marketing skyrockets every January, right? Sure. New year, new marketing plan. What's really funny is about my job and what I do and excel at is teaching people Pinterest. But what I'm really doing is helping you learn how to market your business and create better content.
I love it. Okay, I have two like rapid fire-ish questions for you. I have heard from multiple places different things about like how often you should be pinning. So like one Pinterest person, I just remember them saying that you should only pin 1 pin a day. Is that correct?
So what I would say is whatever you do, you want to do consistently. So Pinterest learns your unique cadence of consistency. So the fact that you determined that 5 a week was your unique, cadence for consistency, it's awesome. You just stick with that, you do that, and then once you're ready, then you layer in a little bit more. There is no perfect number. We used to have like 15 a day, then it was 25 a day, then it was like 1 a day. There's no perfect number and there never has been. What I will say is that obviously the more you share, you're increasing your ability to rapidly learn what resonates with your audience on the platform.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, cool. I love that. Thank you. When someone's like gives a real, like a solid number, I'm like, how did you decide? Like,
No, they just make it up
happened?
because they listen to somebody else and then they repeat it. We have a lot of people who like they know enough information to be almost dangerous, but they don't have enough experience to actually say it depends. And I think the best marketers will always lean into, well, it depends. So I can't tell you, like, Andy, you should be doing 25 a week if you publish one podcast episode a month. It's not a one size fits all.
I have so many people that ask me what pins do well. And I know that you have a perfect pin guide. So can you talk about that a little bit for people?
Yeah. So, well, I get asked a lot about like what to do. I really do teach a multi-prong approach. So we use image pins or Pinterest graphics or like, a static image to drive website traffic to your episodes, to your website, to anything you want to drive traffic to. And then video is fantastic for visibility. And I really think it's 2025. For years now, video has been very, very powerful to be pushed out on Pinterest. So my viral pin guide teaches about how to use the separate, different types of pin formats, as well as sort of the specs around like how to optimize for the platform. Because if you're not using the right images or sizes, Pinterest will not distribute your content or even show it in the feed in the way that it's supposed to be. So it really does pay to optimize your image sizes and your videos for the platform.
Fabulous. Okay, I'll make sure to link that so that everyone can get it and be making the best pins possible. Okay, as we're wrapping up, if you could give one piece of advice for my listeners who are now know how awesome Pinterest is and they're ready to dive in, what would it be?
Just get started. There's no perfect time. We can make a lot of excuses, but just getting started. It is a forgiving platform. You can make mistakes. Sloppy is best, just taking imperfect action.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today.
I'm so glad.
Isn't Meagan the best? I love how she doesn't just teach Pinterest, she uses it to grow her own business. And the results speak for themselves. Here's your homework for this week, your one thing to try. If you don't already have one, set up a Pinterest business account. And if you do, make one pin today, just one. Don't overthink it, rip off the Band-Aid and get started. Pinterest rewards action, not perfection. And if you're tired of spinning your wheels on Instagram and want to shortcut your way to Pinterest success, don't forget my course, Pinterest Magic for Podcasters, is live now. You'll walk away with your account set up, a strategy that actually fits your life, and templates that save you hours each week. Grab it through the link in the show notes. Next week, I'm sharing a super simple 4-step Pinterest starter plan. So if Meagan's tips felt like drinking from a fire hose, don't worry, I've got you covered with bite-sized strategy you can implement right away. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next week.